Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, we have an active weather pattern to talk about, so let's get right into it without further ado. Taking a look at the jet stream across the United States. Notice here we have a big rise in the jet stream in the western United States and a big dip in the jet stream in the eastern United States, and that is leading to lake effect snow, which is very heavy at times from northwest Pennsylvania all the way in towards western New York, with a band that's just going to sit there for hours and maybe even a day for a little bit, and that's likely going to add up to as much as a foot of snow across some of these areas. So definitely watch out if you live, especially in this general area right here. Watch out there in northwest Pennsylvania. Taking this into the daytime hours tomorrow, that jet stream will likely move off towards the east. We will likely need to watch for this piece of energy as it moves into the plains. I definitely think there's some at least conditional risk for strong thunderstorms in this area if we could get storms to fire. The main threat would be damaging winds and hail. The tornado risk is non-zero, but it's a very low risk. But then as we take it into the daytime hours on Tuesday, this storm system will move off towards the east. I'm still not really ruling out a severe threat across this area. If storms can form, there is definitely that potential. Otherwise, we're likely just going to be dealing with rain and maybe snow mixing in on the northernmost end of the system. And then we take it in towards the middle of the week. Wednesday starts to look interesting down here in the south. All right, we're going to have a cutoff low that digs down into the southwestern United States. You can notice that there. There's lots of cold air advection that's going to be happening behind this, and at the same time there's a high pressure system that's going to be yanking up moisture into the southern plains as well. Therefore, I wouldn't be shocked if we had a severe risk across central Texas as we head in towards Wednesday afternoon, but then even more as we head into the day on Thursday. All right, notice here how the high pressure system is even further to the east. That's going to allow more moisture to spill right into that Texas area. With the low pressure system right here, we can almost certainly say there is that risk for severe weather, even tornadic activity as we head into Thursday for the localized state of eastern Texas. And then as we take it into the daytime hours on Friday, this thing will move off towards the north. I still definitely think there's still severe potential across this area. It just all depends how much instability can go north. And then as we head into the daytime hours on Saturday, another piece of energy will drop into the southern plains. There's likely going to be severe weather out of this from that. And then as we head beyond this, things become a bit more uncertain. However, it looks like there is going to be no shortage of active weather over the course of the next 7 to 10 days. Notice here, though, specifically around 2 or 3 days after Thanksgiving, we start to get some really cold air into the country. There is something going on with the polar vortex in the Arctic, and we'll actually talk about this later in this video. But let's take a look at our precipitation trends over the course of the next 7 to 10 days or so to show you how active this pattern really is. All right, as we take it into the daytime hours on Tuesday, like I said before, isolated severe risk down here in Kentucky, maybe southern Ohio, with some rain possibly mixing with wet snow. Otherwise, and then as we take it into the daytime hours there on Wednesday, that moves out. Next storm system moves in from the west. Severe weather a possibility here in central Texas off of any storms that form. And then we take it into Thursday. This is when things could get a bit more interesting when it comes to severe weather across central and eastern Texas. Like I said before, this general area, keeping a very close eye on that, with also some very widespread rain anywhere if you live in this circle region. There's not going to be severe weather in Illinois or any of that, but there is going to be the threat of heavy rain, so just watch out there. There could definitely be some localized flooding impacts. And then we take it into the daytime hours on Friday. Like I said before, maybe a continuation of severe weather across the Ohio Valley, back down into Dixie Alley. And then as we take it into the day on Saturday, we get another reinforced piece of energy that could start severe weather back again down here in southeast Texas. Rain-snow mix happening up here in the Great Lakes off of that initial piece as it collides with cold air. And then we take it into Sunday. Notice here that we have another low pressure system that forms down here. Like I said, beyond, a week from today, which is Saturday and Sunday, we really don't know what's going to happen. However, it looks like as we head, like I said before, around Thanksgiving, especially a couple days after, we're going to start getting in on some very big storm systems, and it's going to be coming with very cold air. And like I said before, that's all due to disruption that's happening up here in the Arctic, which we will talk about way later in this video, all right? But look at this, all right? I mean, you can just see how active this pattern is going to get as we head in towards the end of November. And taking a look at the high temperatures over the course of the next 7 days or so, starting with this afternoon, which is Sunday, November 16th. Notice here, you could tell that the jet stream is dipping across this area with temperatures at max 50 degrees, and that's only in spotty areas. Otherwise, we are pretty much in the 40s and 30s across this general area with lots of snow falling, like I said before, across the Great Lakes region and specifically areas of Ontario. Meanwhile, down here in the south, we are dealing with temperatures which are very summer-like. You can see the boxed out areas. That is record-breaking territory down here in Texas. Highs of upper 80s and low 90s. Definitely going to feel like a scorcher to you guys down there. Monday, we are likely going to have temperatures still stuck in the 40s and maybe even 30s in some areas here for high temperatures, maybe even not getting out of the 20s for areas of the mountain terrains of the Northeast, back into New England. And then down here in the deep south, we still are going to be breaking record-breaking temperatures across Texas, and it's still going to be warm otherwise. So temperatures in the 80s down south. Tuesday, we still have the same temperature gradient basically across this general area right here. This is the warm front right here, like I said, which is going to bring the rain-snow mix across this area and the potential strong to severe thunderstorms in the Ohio Valley. Wednesday, we're likely going to see warmer air lifting towards the north. Thursday and Friday, notice here that the warmer temperatures begin to lift further to the north. So Thursday and Friday, pretty mild across this area. But as we head in towards Saturday and Sunday, cold front comes through, and yeah, temperatures back into the 40s back here into areas of the Great Lakes region. All right, folks, it's time to take a look at the long-range forecast outlooks, all right? Now, I don't usually look long-range, but for specific reasons, what's happening up here in the Arctic tells me that this could be a pretty cold and snowy December. All right, as we end November and go into December, let's explain. All right, as we take this into the last few days of November, check this out. All right, ridging starts to develop in Alaska. We still don't have cold air coming in yet, but watch around Thanksgiving and beyond. All right, look at this. We get a huge ridge to build up here in Alaska, and that could possibly, according to this model, send down a very big chunk of Arctic air into the country. All right, and this is almost certainly going to be Arctic, folks, all right? Definitely bank on that. And then as we headed towards December, notice as that ridge continues to just sit over Alaska, I mean, cold air is just going to continue to settle in. And I wouldn't be shocked if we got several shots of cold air with these ridges blocking the polar vortex from going back. All right, I mean, look at this. As we head even in towards the middle and end of December, I mean, look at this. I mean, you still have signs of very cold air in the northern and eastern half of the country. All right, and to make things even more simplistic for you guys, let's take a look here at the 850 millibar temperature trends. All right, as we take this into the Thanksgiving time frame, like I said before, pretty warm, but then we have this thing that's going to come down. All right, this is a sign. This is probably going to be a pretty big Arctic blast, in my opinion. All right, look how it connects with the Gulf, though. All right, this is what concerns me. All right, high pressure here. Probably some sort of low here, and wherever those lows are, they're going to gain a lot of moisture. And whoever is on the northern flank, whether it's this area here, whether it's this area here, there's probably going to be a big winter storm somewhere. All right, but that's not the big thing that's not the only thing, because as we headed towards December, this cold air is just going to sit there, and the storm track's going to be maintained through the deep south, through the Ohio Valley, and that would allow any sort of snow events to be further to the north, all right? So deep south, pretty mild, but further to the north and east, you guys look to have a really bumpy December in terms of temperatures. Not only that, probably several winter storms. All right, now this is just one little model run here, but let's take a look at the continental United States snowfall map all the way through the month of December. All right, this is just for fun, all right? Taking a look at that here, notice how it has a lot of snow in this general area right here, all right? This is, like I said before, what the storm track supports. All right, it will, I mean, obviously each individual system will, shift on their own. But with all this cold air coming into the country, I have no doubt we're going to have some pretty big synoptic winter storm setups, probably anywhere in this general area here, and maybe even some very heavy snow up here with storm systems in Canada, all right? I think this is going to be mainly late November stuff. And then all of this will fall right into the center of the country as we head in towards December, all right? So there is a big alarming storm track shift. In addition to that, a big Arctic blast and possibly series of Arctic blasts that could come into the United States as we head in towards December. So I will be here to keep you guys updated. There's going to be a lot of crap on social media saying there's going to be this much amount of snow. All right, this is not true, all right? This is just the potential for what this could produce, all right? Don't pay attention to these values, all right? There might be snow as far south as Louisiana. There might not be, all right? It just all depends how far south that jet stream dips. But I definitely think some big storm systems are in the forecast, in addition to very cold air as we head in towards December. All right, folks, I'm Severe Storm Filmer. Make sure, as always, like, subscribe if you're not already. Leave any comments, questions down below. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe out there.